now as president, and it's a tough gig to be president of a group of professionals who all around the country are trying to do the best for their industry, for their state, for their communities, and also for their businesses, and we understand that. But I think, I'm sure at the moment, having a look at the crowd we've drawn together for this, and the trade show and the quality of the presentations, you've been extremely proud president. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Andrew Allan.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you for that very different start to the conference. I was just saying to Julie, the question about the committee member, or the person involved in the association for more than 15 years. I've been involved in 12 years. So I think it's actually a testament to how the industry's grown and changed over the years, that there's new blood, but there's also old blood around too. Now this conference has been 2 years in the planning. And finally, being up here, I've been sort of a little bit circumspect until now, but when you get up and actually look across the room and sort of see all the faces assembled, and actually sort of get into the groove of things, it's actually really, really exciting. So I hope that over the next few days, people will be suitably inspired, as Chris said. We've got presentations, we've got networking opportunities, and along the way, we've also thrown in a few surprises, or things a little bit different that I think will actually be very, very interesting and exciting. When we first thought about the conference and was talking about some ideas very, very early on, I was sort of inspired, it was actually by Kim Stevens, our keynote today, to actually make the conference about a call to action. Quite often you can come to a conference and yes, it's about the networking, it's about the learning new knowledge, sort of new technologies and everything, but it's also an opportunity to come together and actually talk about what the future needs to be. And you would have seen through the conference marketing and sort of in the delegate book that I'm very much of the view that the world that we're moving into is going to be really different to the world that we've come from. So there's a lot of opportunities around technology and sort of we're in the computer and information age, and I think as an industry we have to recognise that and get a good blend of the old and the new. We're also challenged by climate change and population growth and sort of urban development and livability and all those sorts of things. So we're in a really exciting mix. There's a whole lot of new things that new ways of thinking that we can bring to the future. So really, part of the conference is around, let's make this a bit of a call to action. Let's put it on ourselves to actually make the vision, the reality in the future ours, for all the reasons that we believe. So in that space, in putting the conference together, there's two elements of the conference. There's the trade element, there's the concurrent session sort of element, and there's also the keynote sort of element. And the reality is that the concurrent session, if you're going out to the industry to get the industry knowledge, you deal with what comes in. The trade exhibitors, it's really, it's their opportunity to come. But it's at the keynote sort of end where, as a conference organiser, you actually have a really good opportunity to sort of influence sort of the agenda and the tone. So, putting that call to action, thinking about all the opportunities and things that are going on in the industry, and thinking about the experience for you as delegates. I hope we've designed a keynote program that actually puts you at the centre and will give you some insights into what those opportunities are and what actions you can do as professionals after you leave here for the next few years. So, just moving around. So I think Kim will talk more about what he's been doing, but he's come from overseas, from Canada, and he's like a mirror, I suppose. His brief was to compare and contrast and reflect on the different journeys that where he lives and works have been on in this stormwater and this catchment water management space, and how that compares with Australia. And as part of his preparation, Kim, there was a number of very senior people around, around the industry who genuinely offered their time to actually sit down and have a conversation with Kim to help him frame his insights. So that'll be really, really interesting. Rachel Robertson, she's a leader. Her bio, she talks about having gone to Antarctica and led a team there, and in briefing her the other day, there's going to be some really interesting little insights that sort of come out through the whole process of actually putting yourself into an environment where you're months and months away from emergency or evacuation, and what you have to do and how you have to work together. And I think that's going to be really, really interesting. And also, in talking, it also came out, she's got a background, she's got a parks management type background, so she was very familiar and understanding of the issues and the challenges and the government's sort of issues around the management of stormwater and from a plant side. We've got Mark Baptista. So Mark Baptista's been heading up the review of Australian rainfall and runoff, and I think that in terms of the engineers in the room, as a document that actually provides guidance on how we go about doing our business and design and what tools we have available, the revised version actually opens up, I think, a whole lot of opportunities about basically embracing technology and doing evidence-based design. That's going to stand us in good stead going forward, and it's actually going to integrate with the, sort of the WUSD components, the landscape components, because it's not just about drainage now, it's about conveying water through an urban environments. And yeah, so I think it'll be interesting to see what Mark's able to offer in terms of his involvement in that process. Michael Groom, now his bio, when you read it, it's just actually quite inspiring. So I think he's going to be, how you deal with adversity and hardship and overcome, sort of things that you think are going to be insurmountable. I reckon he's going to have a really interesting story to tell, and I'm really looking forward to that. Catherine Daniels, the brief to Catherine was basically, give us a bit of a process of how, I suppose, how policy and decision making sort of happens behind the scenes, it seems. So not really to tell us what we have to do or anything, but just give us some insights into sort of how the process works. As someone who's been involved in that sort of high-level advice in a number of countries around the world. And then Mick, so he's our keynote or our dinner speaker tomorrow, and he's actually got his story. It's one of those. It's a ludicrous story. It's all about just coming up with a crazy idea and going with it, and seeing how far you can get it. And when you hear it, for those that are coming to the dinner, in an Olympic year, I think it's a really good fit for what's possible. So Chris briefly touched on, so as well as the keynote program and the technical program, we also have the social program. So these are some pictures from the past conference at Adelaide. We've obviously got the awards. Last conference, I think for people who were there, about this time I think I was up playing the bongo drums and showing how unrhythmic I was. But yeah, so have that sort of fun along the way. And the other part about it is actually, last time around we did a recognition of people who've been influential in developing the industry and the way that we, the way we do business in terms of technical sort of standards and that sort of stuff. And I think as we move through the conference, that touch back to the people who've actually been the guiders and the leading lights in the past is actually going to be a really important thing to reflect upon, and I think that's going to be part of my sort of reflection over the next couple of days. For the past 2 years, Stormwater Australia has been on a really interesting journey. We made some changes to our constitution. We've changed our governance, our sort of leadership. We've brought in a skills-based board. And we've also had some opportunities around sort of engagement at different levels of government. The Adelaide conference for me was a real sort of eye-opener. Halfway through the conference, for those of you who weren't there, we had Nick Xenophon come give us a presentation, and then within a few hours we were actually having a meeting with him about how we could actually get the profile of stormwater raised in terms of the national political agenda. So along that way, we motivated a fairly strong grassroots response to a Senate inquiry. And I actually found myself earlier this year sitting in the Prime Minister's office talking to their advisors about stormwater and water policy. And when I think about where the industry is and where we can go, that was actually a really, really powerful moment, because I was actually in the Prime Minister's office. Can you imagine how excited my kids were when they went to school and told all their friends? And we can play at that level. We can. They're the conversations that we can have. So part of the revising of the government and bringing in those extra skills is actually to give us some talent that we can actually use to work in that space. But it hasn't been. It's been a challenge, or not a challenge. It's been a journey to actually do that as well, because it hasn't been our culture. It hasn't been the way that we've worked previously. We've sort of tended to be sort of associations and to all the talents come up through that, but bringing in some extra people and some sort of people with a broader base of skills and perspectives has meant we've had to go through a process of norming the group and sort of getting people to work together. And we've got to a point now where we're at that highest level, we're really talking about the values and the, I suppose, the attributes that we bring to the industry as a whole, and how that can be reflected through the way that we provide sort of leadership and guidance. And yesterday we had 3 sessions with board members and key stakeholders and the states, and I think through that there was a recognition that yes, we have to work out, we've got to be and act in a certain way if we expect, we want the industry to come along and actually reflect those values. So the other part about that is also in changing the model and the process is we've gone from I think a few years ago, our model was we held a national conference every couple of years and we put out a bulletin and we talked about what we'd like to do. Moving forward, and this fits in with the conference scheme, it's conference theme of rising to the challenge. We've got a challenge as an industry that we need to get on with doing some things. And so I think that the discussions that we've been having at that more senior level, at high level, has really been about how do we actually deliver a different set of products and services that are going to be of value and interest and use to the community, or our community. And in that space, I'll reflect on some of the work that we've been doing around sort of field evaluation protocols and some articles that appeared in our bulletin last year where there was a lot of discussion around sort of what was right and what was wrong. And one of the manufacturers actually stood up and said, because we've got a process in place and the expectations and the standards going forward are going to be different with what we had going in the past, is we all need to get on board and actually, sort of do the testing, get the evidence, sort of bring our knowledge base up so that everybody's able to work to that higher standard. So on that note, and I think with that process, one of the things that we've been working on is a database, and I'd like to thank Rod. Chris Horgan, who's our website guy, who's not here, but he's done a lot of work, hard work behind the scenes, and then a board subcommittee that's been helping Rod, Fiona, Eric and Harry, basically in working, putting a bit of a database together. So the idea of this database is to allow a listing of all of the proprietary type products out there and put them all in one spot and allow you, the industry practitioners, to actually do some searches and compare some contrasts to sort of take some of the sort of the mystery out of how these things are sized or selected or where they come from. At a really high level, and there's a session there, Rod, your session.
11:35 on Thursday in this room.
Okay, so for those who didn't hear, so as part of our process, we're launching this, and it's sort of in a beta test evaluation phase. We're looking to refine the user experience and making sure that what we're delivering is actually of best use to all industry practitioners. And so as Rod said, we've got a session in here on Wednesday at 11:35, Thursday at 11:35 to actually go through and sort of ask some questions and have a play and look in a field. But from my perspective, I've done a lot of talking to people around the country, and what it really comes down to is there's sort of in the industry, there's those that supply products and services, there's those that provide advice, and there's those that have to make approval decisions and that sort of stuff. And we have to develop a tool that actually addresses all of those needs and gives everybody a fair and equitable sort of way of entering that conversation. So this database as a starting point is what we think is going to be really useful in this regard. So it'll be web enabled. It'll allow vendors to submit their own information, and we'll have a process to make sure that that's, there's a level of scrutiny and checking before that gets published. As a member organisation, we feel it's really important to make this something that's available to our members. So members of the association will be able to log onto the website and go and actually access the database and use it. It'll list all of the devices that are submitted, and there'll be some key sets of parameters around the manufacturer, possibly the indicative sort of price range that you might get to find different products in, and some technical parameters around how they connect into drainage systems and that sort of stuff. But also information sheets that will be supplied as well will have information around maintenance, constructability, how do you get something from onto site and lifted into do you have to dig a hole, and if so, how big is the hole? So some of that sort of practical stuff that you need to actually, design and put these things in the ground. And I think that as we refine this is going to be a really powerful. I think the feedback that I've generally heard is this is something that's been it's needed and it's long overdue, and we have to make it happen. So please find out more about this and provide us the feedback so we can actually refine it and make it work for you. Now, I think I might have one slide out of sequence here. Yep. So the purpose of the database is really to create a level playing field. So to provide some level of consistency of information that's available, allow some level of like-for-like comparisons. If you're looking at sort of design flow rates, or you're looking at sort of things that can connect into a river as opposed to a pipe, I think it will do that. Also really important is to actually provide a pathway to recognise those parts of the industry that have been invested in R&D and have progressively refined the knowledge base and coming up with greater levels of certainty, but also not to lock out people who are at the starting of that journey, or who've got a product that does a whole lot of other things and may not be looking to achieve sort of all of the gamut of outcomes. So we've got a pathway through there to recognise confidence of evidence. And I think also as you work through the pathway, the discussions we've been having is actually how does it reward good behaviours and sort of integrity of process and integrity of information. So at a really high level, we've also been working separately with an advisory committee of manufacturers to develop a technical process to do field evaluations and sort of basically present a brief of evidence to substantiate how a device will perform, particularly in the water quality space. Recognising the process that we're building there, which is really around quality assurance and quality control, we've actually looked to replicate that quality process in the way that we're going to tier and structure the information that we'll ultimately put on the database. And so, in principle, we've got a lot of detail in there, but the principle is the more work that you've done, you're going to be recognised with a higher rating, and people will be able to look at that and have more confidence in the piece of equipment actually being able to perform what it needs to perform. So that's generally what it looks like, and we've got some more work to refine, sort of some of the structures within the process. But the principle is we're going to reward. And I suppose that then leads to the question of how does the database relate to the protocol work that we've been doing. So I think that the database, there's an immediate need. So as I've gone around the country and spoken to people have said we need to be able to look and assess information, do the compare and contrast, and that's an immediate need. If the information's out there, let's put it into a format that actually allows that immediate need to be addressed. I think the database is really focused on the end user, so that's the person that's doing the approvals, or sort of at the hot seat, or a contractor that's trying to work out what devices are going to be appropriate to put in the ground. So it's focused on the needs of those user groups, and also the way we've set up, it actually takes the whole gamut, the whole range of products from sort of just very embryonic to full-blown sort of top end of town sort of thing. So that's what the database is supposed to will help. When we got the quality assurance program performance plan, which actually as we move through that gives an integrity around process. And then when we get to the squid egg, then we're having discussions now with some of the key regulators, about how we frame the protocol work and what level of confidence they have in the scientific rigour and sort of the robustness of process that's gone behind some of the numbers that we're suggesting. And that's a conversation that's going to continue for the next few months. And as we go through that, I think that the protocol's going to actually really support those high-level regulatory outcomes. And the SQUID protocol was really developed to assist those people who are out there now doing the work, doing the testing, investing the hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a field monitoring program, and actually giving them some certainty or some parameters that they could work to. And I think the other thing is the protocol at the end of it, we're going to have some products that sort of rate very highly, and there's going to be a whole lot of other stuff that sits in the mix and valid when you're looking at a design response. And so, yeah, the SQUID app will be geared towards more of those top end of town. So in terms of our implementation, as I said, we've got a beta consultation version that we've released. We want to refine that with user experience and the feedback. And we also need to integrate it with our website. So at the moment it's been developed as a Stormwater standalone, but at some point it should be, if it's going to be a member service, we'll integrate it back into that. And so this is the other thing, if you do go and have a look at it, you'll see it's populated with dummy data, so don't buy a muckraker or this is what's made up all. If you have a problem with the names, you expect everybody to make them all up. But as we get towards the end of the beta phase and we lock in and refine that experience, we'll actually start populating that with real data, and so it'll become a useful tool. So, on that note, borrowing from cliche sporting sayings, thank you linesmen, thank you ball boys. The horses are in the gate and under starters orders, or siren is sounded. On behalf of the board and the conference committee and our sponsors, I'd like to welcome you all to Stormwater2016. Wish you an enjoyable few days and expect to be educated, informed, challenged, inspired, surprised and maybe even a little bit amused. So I'd like to declare Stormwater2016 open. Thank you very much.